Hi, welcome to this video. I want to show you what the performance on an M3 Pro Mac is. If you have like an M3 Max or an M3 or even one of the M2s, because the M3s and M2s are pretty similar. I'm going to show you what what the performance is with probably a pretty good scene. It's pretty big, has full Nanite enabled. So with that said, let me go ahead and show you real quick. So with this scene, I'm getting about 42 FPS. And that's at about a 1080p resolution. I went ahead and I went to screen percentage and I turned that down to 50 at a 4K resolution, which is what's normal. I get about 22 FPS on the M3 Pro. So I definitely keep that around like 1080p, which is 50 screen percentage. The other thing I did was I went into the Unreal Editor preferences and I typed in DPI and I turned off the enable high DPI support and display viewports at high DPI. The reason for that is all that does is basically like make the text and stuff higher res, but because Macs have a super high resolution, you want to turn that off, and you won't notice any difference in the text. So turn that off. If you're on Windows, you're probably working with like a 1080p monitor, so that's probably not a big deal. Maybe a higher GPU if you're at 4K. So that's basically this right here. I do have a performance pitfall over here, so I'm not entirely sure what that is. I think it's the water material. But yeah, if we go over here 40, if I lower the engine scalability to like medium, then let's see here. It's probably going to try to compile shaders. Nope. But if I turn it to medium, I get about 80 FPS. So just keep that in mind. And remember, this is full Nanite. If I go to Nanite, triangles, everything here is Nanite, except for the splines. Everything except the splines and the landscape are Nanite. I've had some issues with the landscape being Nanite, so I might keep that in. I think some things inside these buildings are not Nanite, so that could be hurting rendering as well. The water's not Nanite. But yeah, so pretty much everything's Nanite. I've got tons of grass right about here. So I've got all this grass here, all this foliage. No FPS drop because Nanite's basically infinitely scalable. So if you're using a lot of meshes, for sure use Nanite. But this is the whole scene. I'm going to go and speed it up because there's also another area I want to show you performance on. This is going to, here it is. This is a cave. It uses heavy emissives, decals, all that stuff, custom render stencils. These are all super high poly Nanite meshes, and we're getting about, let me go over here, about 70 FPS. So pretty much the same because I'm using Nanite. Now, Unreal Engine 5.4 is supposed to bring even more. I think they said 2 to 3 times performance due to render parallelization. Right now, the render works on a single thread on the CPU. They're moving it to multi-thread. That's what I've heard. I could be wrong on that, but we'll see when it releases in April. And then they're also bringing spline mesh Nanite, so that will help as well. But yeah, that's basically the M3 Pro. There's another thing I want to show you, and that is the third-person map. That one's going to be about, also, that was all PBR. That was all using Substance Designer, base color, normal, and ORM map, which is occlusion, roughness, and metallic into one map. So this is 20 FPS. This is basically the third-person template with some water materials, glass, translucent glass, some skeletal meshes, decals, etc. So you'll definitely be able to get that. It's actually going above 120, but I have it capped out. So yeah, I'd say that the M3 Pro is pretty good for development. You really don't need an M3 Max if you're doing indie games. If you're doing AAA, you might want an M3 Max. But yeah, Mac is actually pretty good for gaming. I do want to show you what it is like in the actual game in the package build. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up real quick. Okay, so this is the actual game. This is the starting hub area. So in here, I'm getting about 60 FPS. This is at 4K resolution, and I recommend if you're using temporal super resolution, it works similar to like DLSS or Fidelity FX. It's basically a platform agnostic way of handling that, since FSR and DLSS are specific to Windows. So if you're releasing on Mac or mobile, you'd want to do TSR or Linux even. So I'm going to go ahead and turn down it to 1080p, since it's pretty much the same quality. Probably 55. There we go. So now we're at about 95 FPS. So as you see, I didn't really lose any quality because it's 1080p, which is pretty good. We're going to go ahead and go to the actual level. And in this level, we'll have a bunch of characters running around. We'll have all the grass, all of that pretty much. And you can adjust, all these settings. I did turn down the grass on the Mac platform, so they are more sparse. But if you go up here, pretty much it from a high viewport. I do have a performance pitfall over here that drops to about 10 FPS. I think it's the waterfall. But yeah, in game I get about 40, 45 FPS. This is with Nanite, high resolution, all that stuff. So, yeah, that's pretty much the performance on the M3 Pro. With M3, I think it's about 20 or 30% less, and the M2 and the M3 are pretty similar. So, yeah, just keep that in mind. You may not have a scene like this, but I'm not doing any world partition or level streaming. This is all one big scene. This is the same quality as my RTX 2070 Super. So